Keeping a level head is one of the most important skills you can develop. It can make a huge difference, sometimes even saving your life when you don't even know you're in danger. You never know when you're dealing with someone who has a gun, or who doesn't care about going to jail, or who is mobbed up or in a street gang, or is protected from the law by the law. Now, it's not too difficult to imagine encountering someone in the first three scenarios, especially with how easy it is to acquire firearms in the United States where I reside, and the prevalence of individuals with questionable mental states or ties to any type of organized crime. Organized crime might be illegal, but its influences are so vast that many members enjoy de facto immunity. Even in cases dealing with low-level street gangs, intimidation can be surprisingly potent, causing witnesses to suddenly forget details of an incident. That's why I always suggest being polite to everyone you encounter. You never know who doesn't care about going to jail. Even if the person is blatantly in the wrong and is trying to provoke you, it's vital to remain calm and composed, because not everyone values the same things as you do, such as life, liberty, and freedom. No matter the circumstances, treating people with respect and kindness is always a good idea. Even if they're being a true a-hole, the best case scenario is that you gain instant gratification if you respond with similar hostility and malice. Believe it or not, though, the worst case scenario is not that they'll retaliate. The worst case scenario is that they'll retaliate with the full knowledge that they'll never have to answer for their crime. That's where the fourth scenario comes in. No matter how badass you think you are, there is not only someone worse, but there are people who are so bad and will never have to face the consequences for their evil. How is this possible? Someone is in your country on a diplomatic visa. A diplomatic visa is given to people visiting from another country to engage in official government business. Because of the laws outlined by the Congress of Vienna that have been ratified by almost every nation in the world, diplomats are safe to travel in the host country without ever facing prosecution if they break local laws. This means that they can't be arrested, or at the very least, it is prohibitively difficult to arrest them. Now, this usually hasn't been a problem, but if it is, it's the decision of the visiting official's country to allow the host nation to prosecute. But for all intents and purposes, they are protected as long as they are in the country on a diplomatic visa. It could get even worse if they seek refuge in their native country's embassy, because attacking an embassy is considered an act of war. Recall the story of Yvonne Fletcher being killed by a shot fired from the Libyan embassy in Great Britain. British authorities couldn't do anything, and the Libyan authorities wouldn't do anything either. This is how an embassy and a military base in another country work. It is effectively treated as foreign soil, and as such presents a host of difficulties when it comes to navigating crimes committed by their citizens while on the host country's soil. If you doubt this, check out the case of Anne Sokolis, the wife of an American diplomat in Great Britain who left the UK after she killed a 27-year-old in a car crash. And then there's the time that Al Mazuri, a diplomat from the United Arab Emirates, was caught trying to have sex with a 13-year-old girl in Virginia. They set up a to catch a predator-style sting and arrested him when he arrived to meet her, but were forced to let him go because of diplomatic immunity. Now, this is the least likely scenario, but you have no idea who you're dealing with and what their general level of stability is. This leads nicely to the next issue. Remember, the odds of you crossing paths with someone protected under diplomatic immunity are small, but not zero. However, I knew a guy with firsthand experience dealing with the second type of legal protection. Someone is a crucial federal informant. There's a much higher probability of getting into a street altercation with this type of protected guy. I have an acquaintance whose brother was killed, and when he did his own digging, he discovered that the local authorities had a strong lead on a possible suspect. However, they were unable to apprehend him because he was an informant in a much larger federal case. This information wasn't told to him on the record, of course. Now, I don't know how above water this is, but it's not unprecedented. A few years ago, a story broke out about this practice. Several former FBI agents have said, on the record, something akin to the following: the Bureau has to encourage these guys to be themselves and do what they do. If they stop just because they are working with the FBI, someone's going to question them. If anything, I'd want them to become more active. That's Joseph O'Brien, former FBI informant and coordinator in New York City, who retired in '91. In other words, that means some people can kill you without facing legal consequences, and they know it.
And he should have never been on the streets. That is what Detroit Police Chief James Craig is saying about the suspected serial killer accused of 6 murders. This afternoon, we are learning a lot more about Kenyelle Brown's past. Nick Monticelli takes a closer look.
Good afternoon. Yes, some new details should be coming very shortly on this case, but the bottom line is this alleged serial killer was in federal custody, had a whole list of parole violations while he was out on a charge, and now an agency allegedly is the one who told the Department of Justice to let him back out. Police have linked Kenyelle Brown to 6 murders in River Rouge, Highland Park, and Detroit. They spotted Brown jumping fences, and only local 4 cameras were there as officers swarmed a backyard and captured Brown. But now we're learning Brown has a criminal history dating back to 1997 and should have been in prison, but a federal law enforcement agency asked he be let out.
In fact, they may be emboldened to do so because they need to maintain cover and not have anyone think that they're a snitch. Most recently, the man who stabbed Derek Chauvin, the guy who killed George Floyd, the guy who stabbed him in prison, was 50-year-old John Turskak, who had been an informant with the FBI. Turskak was in prison after being found guilty of racketeering and conspiring to kill a rival gang member. Before that, he worked as an FBI informant against the Mexican mafia organization. When being sentenced in 2001, Turskak admitted that he carried out crimes while working undercover as an informant to the FBI. Quote, "I didn't commit these crimes for kicks. I did them because I had to do it if I wanted to stay alive. I told that to the FBI agents, and they just said, do what you have to do." So please don't be a dumbass in these streets. Everyone worries about the police and the possibility of being killed by them with impunity, but at least in that scenario, there's an investigation and a trial. In the case of a federally protected witness killing you, your death would just be the cost of doing business, and as such, it would be written off and charged to the game. That's why you have to keep a cool head in the streets, because you never know who is protected by the law.